Hello chickens, how are you doing today? Thank you so much for joining me. This video is sponsored by Aura. I want to thank them so much for believing in my work and really helping me to bring this to you by sponsoring the content. I will talk more about the Aura platform later on and I can't wait to do so. Today, I decided it would be a good idea to talk a little bit about how to get things over the finish line, how to witch your way to the completion of your projects and tasks. This is definitely not in any way a perfect science for me. I have to say, I have very, very much had my ups and downs with the concept of completion and the practice of completion. But I do manage to run a full-time business. I churn out a lot of different creative content, both as a part of the business and also outside of that, as a poet, as an artist, in my devotional work. I have completed a book and had that book published. It is now published in various languages. I am in the very final stages of the completion of the second book, which is going to print very soon. So I think I have some bits and pieces to say about how I have managed to get things over the finish line, even during really fucking trying, testing, challenging times in my life. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that have seen me through, some of the different tips that I have for you. If you enjoy this video, if you get anything from it, please appease the algorithm gods by slapping a like on it. And also, of course, get at me down in the comments. Let me know, what is it that you do to make sure projects get over the finish line? What are you working on right now? Are you worried about being able to bring it to completion? And are you going to implement any of the advice that I'm going to talk about today? Oh, one more thing actually before I begin today, darlings. Some people have been telling me in the comments recently that they have been unceremoniously unsubscribed from my channel against their will. First of all, that is despicable. I'm so sorry. And second of all, get yourself resubscribed. If you notice that I have come up on your recommendeds on YouTube, but you magically find yourself not subscribed to me anymore, not sure what happened there, but please go ahead and reacquaint me with your subscribe button. I would love that. Probably one of the most important things, one of the most important pieces of advice that I've been given for working on a project and keeping a project moving is to think of your project as a living thing. I remember once in 2017, so a long time ago now, I got in touch with a business mentor in my industry because I was having a really difficult time trying to focus on where my business was going, how I was navigating through it, what I wanted to do next, and even if I wanted to carry on going in the vein that I was going. And I was just finding everything really overwhelming. So I went to this business mentor, and at a certain point in the session, she said to me, "Kellyanne, your business is alive. You need to ask it what it wants. Be in communication with your business. It is a living thing. You have to work with it." And I was just like, mind blown. And I have since told various other people this whenever they're talking about a project, a business idea, something beautiful that they're creating and developing, and they're in a difficult spot with it. They don't know where to go with it. They feel stuck. They feel like they don't have the energy to give to it. I often say to them, once upon a time, I was told to think of one of the most important projects of my creative life as something that is alive, that I can interact with. So that's the first thing that I will say. Are you thinking of your project as something that you are working on? And could you switch that to thinking of your project as something that you are working with? What is the personality of the project or task? What is it that your project or task would give you as a piece of input to let you know how best to bring it over the finish line? Does your project have particular advice or insight that you need to listen to from the project itself? I realized that with my business and with all of the creative stuff I was putting into it, I was thinking of it kind of like a machine that I was building, and I was in complete control of the machine, and the machine for some reason was malfunctioning, and I didn't understand how the machine was supposed to work despite being the designer of this machine. What that business mentor helped me to realize was that I could switch to thinking of myself as a gardener and as the business as a garden, right? So I need to feel the leaves. I need to figure out like where different parts of the garden need more water, need more light, where the roots need more space. Similarly, I could think of my business as kind of like a flock in a way, a flock of animals or a menagerie of birds. And I get to think of myself as like the stewardess and the carer, the caretaker of those animals. And I get to really lean into their personalities, what they want to eat, what kinds of things they need to help them to thrive. So it became much more this really like intimate dynamic where I'm learning from the project itself as it grows and changes and as it shows me what its needs are, rather than thinking of it in a more cold kind of mechanical way. And that's not to say that I don't think of machines as being alive. It's not to say that I don't have a very animistic flavor to my spiritual reality, but it did help me to think of it more as though the project is a garden. The project is a menagerie. You know, the project is some kind of like piece of land with all this flora and fauna on it and animal life, and you are really listening to it for information about how best to help it live. That for me was a far better way of thinking of things. So I guess what I'm asking you is, how often do you think of your project as being alive? And what is it telling you about the life it wants to live, about what it needs more of, and about what you could potentially change to help it to grow? So one really awesome way that I've found to connect with a project as a thing that is alive, as a thing that I'm working with rather than working on, is to make some kind of visual image of that project. And I've used Pinterest boards for this. As many of you know, I'm a mixed media collage artist, so I've used mixed media and collage pieces to focus on this. You can paint, you can doodle, you can do any number of things, but basically create some kind of visual representation, either in the material realm or in your imagination, that really represents the personality of the project, the vibe of the project. And when you do that, you can really connect with it more closely because you've actually got something that you can reference that helps you to think about what the project is like. You know, as a being, as a living being, what is the project like? Is it very like sassy and quick talking and kind of really independent and wants to do its own thing and wants to go where it wants, but maybe it needs kind of like more direction, but it doesn't want to be stifled? Is the project kind of like nervous and highly sensitive, but it really wants to live, but it needs a lot of reassurance and it might need things done a certain way so that it can feel a sense of safety to be able to expand? You see what I mean? You're really like connecting with the character of the project more. So that's one thing that I would suggest. Another thing that I would say about thinking of the project more as a living being in its own right and working with it rather than working on it is that you really have to give the project permission to change, and you have to give yourself permission to feel differently about the project. You are going to change as you work on the thing that you're working on, and it's okay if you start to think and feel about the project differently. During the writing of my second book, Witch in Darkness, which you can pre-order now, I'll leave the link down below where you can pre-order it and read about it a bit more. During the writing of Witch in Darkness, I experienced a collapse of my entire reality. I went through, and I'm still going through, the most insane, intense and unexpected bereavement I ever could have imagined. And I stopped writing the book for a long time after that. I had to shelve it because I really just could not bear to work on anything like that. I was barely able to survive, and everything was just very day by day. How am I really going to just ingest some food? How am I going to hydrate myself? How am I going to get through this, right? And I found that the book was one of the components that it took me the very longest time to come back to. I realized as I reflected more and more on whether I could even carry on with the book, that basically I'd fallen out of love with it, babes. I'd fucking fallen out of love with it, truth be told. I didn't feel the same way about the book anymore. And in a way, I had to get right with that, and I had to get honest with myself about that, and I had to get honest with the book about that. And I kind of had to be in communion with the book as a project and just say to it, look, you know, when I first conceptualized you and you first came into the world and we started doing this thing, I felt very differently about you than I do now. Now I feel like there's a fracture, there's a rupture, there's been an interruption on a massive scale. And I do not know how to come back to you, and I do not know how we're going to do this thing. And it was only in claiming that honesty around how my feelings had changed that we were able to get into a different groove. And eventually I was able to complete the project, and I was able to gently, organically reposition the relationship I had with that project instead of quitting completely. So I want to welcome you to think of your relationship with your project as not being static, but being something that can and will be subject to change. And you don't have to feel exactly the same way about a project as you did when you started it. You can really honor the changes that you go through with that living project, with that living vision that you have set out, and understand that you're going to grow together. And it's okay for things to look very different at the end than what they did at the beginning. Maybe this is going to be a fairly obvious one, darlings, but spellcasting for success is pretty much always on my menu when I'm thinking about getting something over the finish line. I very often think of witchcraft as one of the principal foundational steps that I will take. I don't want to do witchcraft just because I've gotten to the stage where I'm stuck and I'm freaked out and I don't think I'm going to finish. I want to do witchcraft at the beginning. You know, I want to set my ambition into my spellcasting. I want to do something right at the beginning to feed my ambition and my vision and really, really fortify myself for the work that lies ahead. So I try to do it from the get-go. A few of the key ways that I really enjoy to implement witchcraft is I love, you know, power teas. I love enchanting tea. I will usually enchant it the night before I know that I'm going to be putting a lot of effort and energy into a project. So I'll put all of my beautiful high intentions into it. I will read things over it that I've written or things that come from books. I will, you know, sort of to put my chimes over it. I'll put incense over it or pass it through incense. I'll leave it on the altar, charging up overnight. And then in the morning, I will apply the hot water and drink it. So enchanted teas, you know, those power potions, I make them very simply and easily by just using loose leaf tea that I already have. But obviously, like, consecrating it for the express purpose of fueling me for the project that I'm doing, that's a really great one to do. So don't be afraid to enchant potions and ingest the potions before you know that you're going to be spending some dedicated time on the project. Another thing I love to do is something that I call cheerleader candles. And I actually have one on my altar right now that I'm going to be dressing and consecrating later tonight. So let me show you. It's just a very, very basic, simple gold candle, a gold kind of like tapered dinner candle. I want the gold candle because I want to win, you know, first prize. I want to get the gold medal, right? It just seems like a sort of victory color, if you will. This will later on be dressed and consecrated and chanted over, and I will activate it. I will carve something into it, probably a number of runes. I often use runes in my candle magic. And this will be for the express purpose of burning it whenever I'm working on the project that I have in mind. I have used cheerleader candles for all kinds of things, including implementing my home Pilates work routine. That's a big thing that I use cheerleader candle for. And I also used it for decluttering my clothing and going through my clothing, which I did just earlier this year. So at the beginning of January, I decided to have a big clothing declutter. I was feeling a lot of really fraught emotion around it because I've got a lot of emotions about my clothes. And maybe I'll go into that in a separate video, my loves. But what I decided was I need a cheerleader candle. I need a candle that I enchant for the purpose of really fueling the project and helping me focus. And then I only light that candle when I'm working on that project, and then I blow it out. This also has the added really interesting effect of making me focus a lot on the project while the cheerleader candle is burning, because I'm aware that the candle is burning. So it's like the candle is there with me, going through the process, doing it with me, you know? So I don't really want to go off task while I've got my cheerleader candle burning, because it's cheerleading my success, baby. So I want to get in the zone. I want to get in that headspace. So those are a couple of things you can do. Sigil magic is good. Working with poppets is good. There are all kinds of different magical techniques that can help you to really, you know, spell cast for success. Let that be a part of what you do on the journey. One thing I think it's really good to use magic for, darlings, is to consecrate and enchant and empower any and all tools that you're going to be using as part of your project. So for example, if you've got a project to do with art, bless those art materials, enchant those art materials, activate them, program them for the purpose that they're intended for. If you are working on a project that's to do with your health and wellness, and you're going to be using vitamins and you're going to be using workout equipment, and you've got yourself some new, you know, sort of athleisure clothing to, you know, active wear or whatever, all of that shit, okay, make sure that you pass that through some incense, you know, dedicate it to what you're going to be doing with it, enchant it, make it feel like it's far more high powered and it's got that energy of intention in it. I have a ring binder that I use for my book notes. I used it for Rebel Witch, and now I'm using it for Witch in Darkness. It's just a very basic silver kind of holographic ring binder, but that thing is enchanted to fuck. I have really done a lot of magic around that thing, okay? Like, that ring binder is protected by the gods, my sweet loves. So yeah, anything like that that you know is going to be a really key like part of the toolkit for your project, make it magical. Take self-care seriously, my loves. Do not do what I have done so many times and neglect self-care and put it at the bottom of the priority list because you see it as an expendable time suck. It is not expendable. It will be expendable for a little while, and then you will go into burnout and you will go into resentment of the project and you will go into standstill and you will feel exhausted and it will not be good. So just don't, okay? Just do not. I definitely try to keep a self-care routine. One thing that I really love to do is to write lists of different self-care activities, because when I feel overwhelmed and I know that I'm working a lot on trying to get something over to the finish line, whatever it is, whether it's housework, whether it's the book, whether it's whatever it is, I know that I struggle to think of what self-care activities I could do. They all just go out of my head, my loves. So I'm a person that needs to have a list that explains things like the cleaning routine for my kitchen, the cleaning routine for my bathroom, okay? Because I'll get in there and if I feel overwhelmed, I'll be all higgledy-piggledy and I'll start a million things and finish nothing. I have object impermanence, I have executive dysfunction. I'm talking about all of this with my therapist for the last few months, and it is her that noticed it all. And she started bringing it to my attention, and I was like, that's why I'm the type of person that needs a list of self-care activities, because I can't really think of them on my own. I get stumped. So definitely write a list of anything and everything that you know, everything from a bubble bath to reading your book to taking a quick walk, taking a power nap, like, you know, any of that stuff, put it on the list. Keep a list of your self-care activities. Think about everything in the past that has brought you to a sense of feeling calm, feeling that you love yourself, that you're with yourself, that you're doing something positive for yourself, and write it down somewhere so that you can access the list when you know that there is some time for self-care. And yes, that time should be non-negotiable. And yes, it should be happening on at least a weekly basis. And really make sure that you tune into that list so you can think about what you want to spend that time doing. One of the things that is pretty much always on my list of self-care options is using apps, my darlings. I've used apps for a long time now to try and really implement wellness, mindfulness, and self-care and productivity and all that good stuff. And that is why I'm really pleased to have Aura sponsoring this video. Aura is an incredible app that really has been life-changing for so many people in just bringing them on task with what it is that they're doing and making sure that they feel okay while they're doing it. You've got a lot of different things on Aura. I know the last time I spoke about it, I discussed the benefits of a lot of the sleep stories and the sleep aids that are on there because I do struggle with my sleep cycle. But this time I wanted to talk a little bit more about the productivity and the inspiration, the encouragement for getting things done. There are a lot of coaches on the Aura app, and they offer loads of different really inspiring tips for staying focused, getting in the zone, and not being stressed while you complete the things that you want to complete. And I found that incredibly useful for this last leg of writing my book. I have to say, there is a lot of great stuff on there for that. And the other things that I've found useful when it comes to getting something over the finish line is looking at their prayer section on Aura. And I hadn't really explored this, but recently I've been much more into it because I tend to find that once I've found a good coach and I've selected a productivity meditation and I've really just kind of done some deep breathing and gone into that meditation that helps me to focus, afterwards I can finish with a calming and simple prayer, a guided prayer. And that really helps me to kind of round things off well. So I like the combination of those two things together. Aura is used by 7 million people worldwide. It won the Best of Apple award. It is an incredible all-in-one app. You've got other things there too, like you've got breath work, you've got CBT coaching, you've got wellness stuff, you know, you've got the sleep stories. There's so many different aspects to Aura that make it into something you can use for various different things. So you can use it for anxiety, you can use it for sleep, you can even use it for things like relationship breakdown and stuff like that. So it gets very specific. A lot of the tools that they have on Aura are quite specific, and I find that useful as well. You can really, really personalize your experience with Aura. You can favorite things, you know, you can have things that you return to again and again. It also offers quite a wide range of different coaches and storytellers, so you can really select the vibe that you want and create a catalog for you that you can return to over and over again, and you can kind of have those different tools that you know mean the most to you and that you get the most out of. In the month of January, I challenged myself to use Aura for 30 days, and I challenge you also to do the 30-day meditation meditation challenge. And this is really where you go in every single day and give a few minutes of your time to really prioritizing self-care and getting centered, and just see how that works for you, you know, see it as an experimentation. Does it make you feel calmer? Does it help you to be more productive? Does it reduce anxiety and difficult feelings? And if so, then you know you're onto a winner, and you know that's something that you can return to. You can get started on Aura completely free using the special link in my description, my darlings. The first 500 people that sign up actually get a free trial plus 25% off exclusively. I know loads of people went ahead and did this last time Aura sponsored a video, so get in there fast, go and sign up, and it helps the channel when you do. Thanks again, Aura, for sponsoring. Scripting is a really, really good thing that I do for success. I actually made a big, fat, juicy video on scripting, which I will link in the down bar below so that you can check out all of the great advice I gave on scripting. Scripting is basically where you use the writing process to get extremely specific about what the future is going to feel like. You're going to describe in detail, in minute, grainy, graphic detail, darling, in 4K detail. You're going to describe basically what it's going to feel like getting over the finish line and what your life is going to look like going on from there into the future. And this just really provides you with an incredible amount of centered, grounded desire to go on and do the damn thing. And it helps you to feel that you're more closely in touch with what it is that you want to achieve, and you feel an emotional connection to what you want to achieve. If you've never tried scripting before, I really couldn't recommend it more highly, my darlings. It's been so fucking useful to me. So please do check out that video if you want a really in-depth breakdown. Obviously, there are loads of people talking about the benefits of scripting online, so you can go with any one of those resources. But I like to think that I add a little extra special sauce when I talk about scripting, because I'm super passionate about it, but I'm not really overly prescriptive about it. I do think people can approach scripting in a number of different ways according to their personality type and needs. And so I've really tried to factor that into that scripting video. So get over there if you want to know more about scripting, but I think it's a really great way of doing things. And usually for me, whenever I've come to this sense of standstill or frustration about what's going on with a project and I'm stalling with something that I really do want to complete, scripting will be the amazing time that I'll take just this slice of kind of space and energy for myself to reconnect at heart level with the project. Because usually what's happened is something's gone a little bit wonky, something's just gone slightly awry, and I'm not feeling the way I need to be feeling about this thing that I've committed to doing. And so really allowing myself to put my mind and my heart into the position of being done with the project and feeling how I feel about being at that finish line, and really deeply imagining it, going into it tangibly so that the success is palpable to me through the writing process, is incredibly enriching, and it helps me get back on track. It really does. So let me know down below specifically if you have had success with scripting. Did you see my scripting video and try it from that? Is it something that you've just been doing for years and years? Did you used to even do it naturally when you were a kid and you didn't even know that's what you were doing? Because I've heard that from a lot of people that Kellyanne, I've always scripted for years. I've always been I live in my perfect house and I'm with my perfect partner and I feel like this and I'm just going to the coffee shop to get my coffee. And they're 8 years old or 12 years old or whatever. And they're I'm a famous writer, and they're just really scripting everything out. I always say with scripting, try to get granular, go into the fine fucking detail, my loves. It really helps. And I tried to take a very small slice of what I want to achieve. So I remember with Rebel Witch, when I was really struggling with Rebel Witch, I literally used to describe the very specific feeling of ripping the box open from Watkins Publishing and holding the finished product of Rebel Witch in my hands. And I would be very descriptive about even how the pages fell open and how it felt to see my words in written format, bound in a book for the first time. I really connected to that feeling very strongly, even to the point where it was almost hauntingly beautiful when it actually happened. So yeah, I got really specific. I do like to do broad strokes as well with my scripting and just write about yeah, loads of great reviews have come in for the book and I'm feeling great about it and people are enjoying it and I feel amazing. But I also got granular. I went down to the fine detail, you know? So yeah, as I said, big juicy video about scripting. Go over there if you want more from me on that. It is definitely good for getting over the finish line. Another video that I made a while ago on this channel, chickens, was a video about witching to break your bad habits. And the reason I bring this up, and I will leave that video in the down bar as well, the reason I bring this up is because a lot of what gets between you and the completion of your projects is bad habits. bad habits, whether that's like phone addiction, staying up too late, oversleeping, procrastination, overthinking, just all these different types of things, bad habits, basically. And so I think witching can be a really great way to get to the other side of those habits. And I think one thing we need to do is to confront bad habits that are specifically getting between us and the project that we want to complete. Be really honest with yourself when you're confronting bad habits that are creating an obstacle and preventing you from going over the finish line, or even preventing you from believing that you can. I am the queen of making excuses. And you know what? I have learned not to be down on myself about that, but actually just to witness it when it's happening. And for a long time, I could only witness it in the rearview mirror. I couldn't witness it while it was happening. I could only see afterwards that, like, wow, I made so many excuses for not doing that, for not finishing that, for not being in the mood, for being late with it, whatever. And actually, what was behind those excuses? Let me witness the thing that led to me having to make all of those excuses in the first place. So I can do it a little bit better now as I'm doing it, and just really realize that I'm doing it and stop making those excuses and just own the fact that this is something that I want. This is something that I said I would do. This is something I know I'm capable of. So I'm not fucking making excuses. But for a long time, I would make excuses galore, and I would not even be conscious of the fact that that's what I was doing. And I'm not sitting here saying that there's never any valid excuse for why we can't move further towards success and we can't take the steps that we said we were going to take. Like, obviously, there are a shitload of different reasons why we might be pulled off track. So I'm not saying that never, under any circumstances, can you have an excuse for not forging forward. But I think we know when we're BSing ourselves, and I think we know when the excuses are coming thick and fast because we're digging our heels in, we've gone into procrastination, and we feel like we need to justify to ourselves or to other people why it is that we are not producing and we're not providing and we're not moving forward, even when we said we would. And I think that I've definitely done a lot of that bullshit detection with myself, and I'm proud of myself for that. So definitely witness the bad habits. Don't be afraid to witch through them. As I said, I will leave a video down below that helps you with witching through bad habits and gives you some ideas of how you might like to do that. And you don't need to be a witch to take on this advice. You can really tailor it and customize it so that it makes sense for your specific paradigm. And obviously there are loads of different ways to witch through and to sort of, mystic your way through bad habits and really confront them and break them using those different tools. My video just sort of packs as much into it as I can to help you, consider different options. It's supposed to inspire you, my darlings. Know in your heart that you can quit. I really think one of the most important things for me that's allowed me to get over the finish line with things is knowing that the things I want to finish are things I choose. It is my free choice, and I can always quit if I want to. The point is that I'm choosing not to quit, because despite my fears, despite the obstacles I'm facing, despite the problems that are, coming thick and fast with this project that I need to kind of troubleshoot, I choose this. I want this. It's worth the commitment. It's worth the blood, sweat, and tears. And so it's always really important for me to not feel like I'm trapped, like I'm really sort of in bondage to this project and I can't cut loose and I can't run away. That's always allowed me to just make more excuses and to feel really resentful of the project and to feel resentful of everybody else that might be a part of the project or anyone that's cheerleading me through it. I get resentful of people and I get resentful of the situation. And it's just like, why? You chose this situation. You want to do this thing. So whenever you are trying to get further with your, language that you're learning, the instrument that you're studying, the course that you're doing, the business that you're building, the book that you're writing, my darlings, whatever it is, know that you choose it and you choose all of the difficulty that comes with it and you're committed. If you are not committed, if you've ever found that you were previously committed to something in your life and then you walked away, you quit, your heart just wasn't in it anymore, you're not a failure, you're a fucking human being. Everyone has done that. Everyone has had to change course from time to time and realize, like, you know what, I really wanted this at a certain point in my life, but too much has changed. I'm not the same person. I'm just not feeling it anymore. You're fucking allowed to feel that way, darlings. So, when you know that you really want something despite the bullshit and you keep coming back to it and you keep putting your nose to the grindstone, that's really positive because you know you want it even though it's not easy, and you committed to it even though you didn't expect it to always be easy. And that is really empowering sometimes, to look at the fact that you keep choosing this thing and you keep choosing to push through the obstacles and growing and further coming to know yourself because of the way you engage with those obstacles. That to me is really powerful. Whenever I get myself into the headspace of like, I've got to do this and people don't understand and I'm really overworked and I can't, whatever. Whenever I get into that headspace, I just dig my heels in more and I don't do what I said I was going to do. Whereas when I look at it from the perspective of, my God, this is hard, but this is what I chose. Like, this is what I want. I'm hungry for it. And it's just like really difficult, but I'm watching myself do it and I'm marveling at myself. That's always just so much more of an encouraging way of looking at things. Knowing that I have the free choice and I have the freedom to quit at any time I want is usually one of the most powerful ingredients that helps me to carry on. That's what I will say. It's almost like, oh, I feel like I'm going to tough it out. Like, I'm not going to let this get the better of me. It just inspires me in that way. It makes me become very stoic and very much like, no, this is what the fuck needs to be done. And this is what's happening. Honey bunnies, this has been great. Thank you so much for watching this video. I very much enjoyed talking about how to get over the finish line. It's a very enriching, like energizing topic for me. I really love it. Please leave any comments down below about different ways that you have managed to get over the finish line. Thank you again, Aura, for sponsoring this video. Before I go today, my darlings, I just want to let you know that there are a couple of ways that you can work with me if this video has resonated. If you want to talk about a project that you would like to get over the finish line, if you're flailing, if you're not sure what to do, and you're wondering what spiritual tools might be necessary to help you, you can book a spiritual counselling session with me. I do single sessions or packs of 3 or 6 if you want ongoing accountability, and we can hash it out. We can get into it. I also do offer something called a sacred action session, and that is a little bit different in the sense that a sacred action session is me giving you company, encouragement and cheerleading while you actually do whatever it is you're supposed to be doing. So whether it's decluttering, whether it's paperwork, whether it's writing or researching for your book, whatever it might be, I am there with you while you are doing it, giving you the encouragement. We use a timer, we come back and we talk about and clarify what the issues are, and then you get right back to work. Sometimes, depending on what you're doing, I might talk with you and encourage you along the way. You can explain to me what you're doing as you're doing it. But other times, people like their quiet time. So we sort of time 10, 15 minutes and then I check in. But it's a really interesting, really kind of intimate and energizing way to work with somebody where I actually meet them as they are undergoing their project. And that has been a really beautiful thing for me to witness people doing, is being in action while I'm there. You can book one single session of sacred action, or you can book, again, packets of 3 or 6 for ongoing accountability. Please check out my store for any and all other things that you might want. I offer a lot of different readings, and there are new things in the new things section. So I have some shiny new reading options for you, my darlings, if you would like to take a look at them. Until next time, my darlings, I always really appreciate you being here on this channel with me. It means so, so much. I have loved this journey on this channel, and there's still so much more to say and do. So I'll be with you again soon. Blessed be. Mwah. Do svidania. Au revoir.